Why do collectors quietly pull certain Roosevelt dimes out of circulation? The answer is hidden in one tiny detail most people miss. The 1976 U.S. Roosevelt dime is one of those coins that people saw every day without giving it a second thought. It was a common coin in circulation, part of everyday transactions, and most of us treated it like pocket change. For most of its life, the Roosevelt dime was just that. A simple 10-cent piece, minted in the millions to keep commerce moving. But hidden among those countless coins were rare error varieties that collectors dream about, coins so scarce and unique that they bring extraordinary prices at auction and capture the imagination of numismatists around the world. If you pull a random 1976 Roosevelt dime from your wallet, it will almost certainly be a normal example with no significant value beyond face value, and maybe a small premium if it's in exceptionally good condition. A typical circulated 1976 dime without errors is generally worth just 10 cents. Maybe $1 or $2 for collectors if it's uncirculated and still has original luster. These common dimes are abundant and often affordable, filling coin folders and circulation sets without generating much excitement. But when a coin has a mint error, everything changes. Errors occur when something goes wrong during the minting process, and the result can be a coin that is visually unusual and highly sought after by collectors. One of the most fascinating and valuable error varieties associated with the 1976 Roosevelt dime is the doubled die obverse, DDO. This type of error happens when the die used to strike the coin receives a misaligned second impression, causing parts of the design to appear doubled. On the 1976 dime, collectors often look for doubling on the date, the lettering, or even on Roosevelt's profile. These subtle but distinct differences can dramatically impact a coin's value. The difference in value between a normal 1976 dime and a double die error is staggering. An ordinary circulated dime might be worth very little, but a 1976 Roosevelt dime with a noticeable double die can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on its condition and how pronounced the error is. A lightly circulated double die dime might bring in the range of $350 to $900 at auction, with the exact price depending on how clear and dramatic the doubling appears and how appealing the coin is overall. When condition improves, so does value. Uncirculated double die errors with strong visual impact and original lustrous surfaces are extremely desirable to collectors. These high-grade coins have appeared at auctions and brought prices in the thousands, sometimes selling for $8,000 to $20,000 as numismatists compete to add one of these rare varieties to their collections. But the excitement doesn't stop there. At the highest levels of rarity and condition, the most exceptional 1976 double die Roosevelt dimes have brought truly astonishing auction results. When a coin is flawless, with a dramatic error and top-tier grading, competitive bidding among serious collectors can drive prices into jaw-dropping territory. Some of these rare 1976 Roosevelt error dimes have sold in major auctions for prices ranging from $67,525 to as high as $160,100. These results show just how much demand there is for error coins that have both rarity and superb quality. Double die errors aren't the only type of mint mistakes that can make a 1976 Roosevelt dime valuable. Other error varieties also draw strong interest from collectors, each with their own value ranges and appeal. Off-center strikes, for instance, occur when the planchet isn't properly aligned in the press and part of the design is missing. Minor off-center errors might trade for $25 to $75 in average condition, but dramatic examples where a large portion of the design is missing can bring $200 to $750, depending on how eye-catching and complete the remaining design appears. Clipped planchet errors are another fascinating category. These happen when the blank coin is improperly cut and a piece of metal is missing before the coin is struck. Clipped planchet dimes from 1976 can sell from $30 to $150 or more, depending on the size and visibility of the clipped area. Coins with large, well-defined clips and attractive surfaces tend to command higher prices. Another intriguing error is the rotated die error, where the obverse and reverse aren't properly aligned. When you flip the coin, one side might appear rotated at an unusual angle compared to the other. These rotation errors can vary in value, with slight rotations bringing modest premiums and extreme rotations fetching $100 to $300 or more, especially when the coin is in pristine condition. There are also rare examples of Roosevelt dimes struck on flawed planchets, metal blanks with defects that produce unusual surfaces or weakly struck areas. Coins with strikingly odd textures or visually distinct anomalies can draw collector attention and sell for $50 to several $100s depending on how unusual and distinct the defect appears. Throughout all these varieties, condition plays a crucial role in determining value. Two coins with the same error can have vastly different price tags if one shows heavy while the other remains crisp and clean. Professional coin grading and authentication can dramatically increase a coin's market value, giving buyers confidence that the error is genuine and the condition has been fairly evaluated. Auction results over the years highlight the incredible range of values error coins can achieve. Regular 1976 Roosevelt dimes are ordinary and inexpensive, but rare error examples, especially those with significant double dies in superior grades, have consistently brought extraordinary prices in top-tier auctions. When collectors competed for the finest known specimens, some coins sold within the remarkable range of $67,525 to $160,100, turning what was once common pocket change into prized numismatic treasures. For anyone who has 1976 Roosevelt dimes in their collection or even in loose change, taking a closer look can be exciting. With a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe, you might spot doubling, an off-center strike, or another mint error hiding in plain sight. While most coins will prove to be ordinary, the thought that one might uncover a rare, high-value error keeps collectors opening rolls, sorting through collections, and eagerly checking dates and details. In the end, the 1976 Roosevelt dime shows that even the most common coins can sometimes hold hidden potential. Whether it's a subtle double die error or a dramatic misstrike, errors transform ordinary coins into extraordinary finds, and the high prices realized at auction remind us that the smallest details can make the biggest difference. What was once 10 cents can turn into a remarkable piece of numismatic history. The 1984 D. Roosevelt 1 dime is a coin that almost no one ever thinks about. It was struck in huge numbers at the Denver Mint and released straight into everyday circulation, where it blended in perfectly with millions of other dimes. Most people who handled these coins never stopped to look at them closely. They were used for parking meters, vending machines, and small purchases, passed from hand to hand without a second glance. For the vast majority of examples, that's all they will ever be worth, 10 cents. Even today, a normal 1984 D. Roosevelt dime without any unusual features is extremely common, and in circulated condition it rarely sells for more than face value. Even uncirculated examples typically bring only a few dollars. But within this sea of ordinary dimes, a very small number were struck with serious minting errors, and those mistakes completely changed their destiny. These rare error coins are what make the 1984 D. Roosevelt dime fascinating to collectors. A coin that most people would ignore can suddenly become a highly valuable collectible when something went wrong during the minting process. A standard 1984 D dime without errors is easy to identify. The strike is clean, the lettering is sharp, Roosevelt's portrait appears normal, and the torch on the reverse is well defined. These coins were mass-produced, and because supply is so high, demand remains low. Even in brilliant mint condition without any error, a normal 1984 D dime is usually worth between $1 and $3 at most. There is nothing rare or special about it. Everything changes when an error appears. One of the most sought-after errors for this date is the double die obverse. This type of error occurs during the creation of the die itself, not during circulation. When the design is impressed onto the die more than once and slightly misaligned, it creates noticeable doubling on the coin. On genuine 1984 D double die dimes, this doubling can often be seen on Roosevelt's eye, the word Liberty, and the date. Unlike simple machine doubling or where true double dies have strong, rounded doubling that stands out clearly under magnification. Even in circulated condition, a genuine 1984 D double die dime can sell for several $100s. Collectors recognize how scarce these coins are, and demand is strong. In better circulated examples, prices often fall in the $500 to $1,200 range, depending on how bold the doubling appears. Once you move into uncirculated territory, values rise sharply. Certified mint state double die examples have sold at auction for several $1,000s, with strong specimens frequently reaching $4,000 to $7,500 when collectors compete for high-quality pieces. Another highly collectible error found on some 1984 D dimes is the missing clad layer. Roosevelt dimes from this period are made of a copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of nickel. When one of those outer layers fails to bond correctly, the coin may be struck missing part or all of its clad layer. These coins often appear reddish or coppery on one side and silver-colored on the other. This type of error is dramatic and immediately noticeable. Missing clad layer dimes are far rarer than people realize. Even worn examples can sell for $300 to $800, simply because of how unusual they are. Uncirculated examples with a full missing clad layer and strong eye appeal can command prices well into the thousands. Auction records show some certified examples selling for $5,000 to $9,000 when condition and eye appeal are exceptional. Off-center strikes are another error that appears on some 1984 D Roosevelt dimes. These occur when the blank planchet is not properly aligned during striking, causing part of the design to be missing. The value of an off-center dime depends heavily on how dramatic the error is. A slight off-center strike might sell for $20 to $50, but a major off-center strike where a large portion of the coin is blank and the date is still visible can sell for several $100s. The more visually striking the error, the higher the demand. There are also rare cases where 1984 D dimes were struck on the wrong planchet. These off-metal errors can result in dimes that are heavier or lighter than normal, or that have a completely different color. When authenticated, these coins are extremely desirable. Depending on the metal and the condition, wrong planchet 1984 D dimes have sold at auction for $2,000 to $10,000 or more. But the most extraordinary prices are reserved for the rarest and finest known error examples. When an error coin combines extreme rarity, dramatic appearance, and near-perfect condition, collectors are willing to pay astonishing amounts. In high-end auctions and private sales, the finest known 1984 D Roosevelt dime error coins have reached breathtaking prices. Exceptional specimens with strong doubling, flawless surfaces, and full original luster have been associated with values ranging from $60,135 to as high as $141,560 when competitive bidding pushes prices to their limits. These numbers reflect not just the error itself, but how few elite quality examples exist in the world. Comparing these error coins to normal examples makes the difference unmistakable. A regular 1984 D dime is common, predictable, and inexpensive. An error coin, on the other hand, tells the story of a momentary mistake at the mint, one that was never supposed to happen. That mistake creates individuality, and individuality is what collectors pay for. While millions of standard dimes exist, only a tiny handful of these error coins are known, and even fewer survive in top condition. Auction results make this contrast very clear. Normal 1984 D dimes are often sold in bulk or ignored entirely, while error coins are sold individually, often with detailed descriptions and professional certification. Certified error coins consistently bring higher prices, because collectors want assurance that the error is genuine and not the result of damage after the coin left the mint. Certification also helps establish the coin's place among the finest known examples, which can dramatically increase its value. For everyday coin hunters, the 1984 D Roosevelt dime represents the kind of possibility that keeps people searching through rolls and pocket change. While the odds of finding a major error are extremely low, the idea that a 10-cent coin could be worth thousands, or even over $100,000, keeps collectors motivated. Most dimes will always be ordinary, but a rare few slipped through the mint with mistakes that turned them into numismatic treasures. At first glance, the 1984 D Roosevelt dime seems unremarkable. But when you understand its rare error varieties, especially the doubled dies and missing clad layers, it becomes clear why collectors continue to study and search for these coins. From a simple 10-cent piece to auction prices reaching $60,135 to $141,560, these rare error dimes prove that even the smallest coins can carry extraordinary value when rarity, condition, and history come together. Most people don't give a second thought to the dimes jingling around in their pocket. 10 cents is a small amount of money, something we use every day without noticing. But in the world of coin collecting, some dimes are far more fascinating than their face value suggests. One such coin that has drawn real attention from collectors is the 1999 P Roosevelt dime with a rare mint error. There's a huge difference between the typical 1999 Roosevelt dime and one of these unexpected error finds, and that difference can translate into astonishing values at auction. To most people, a regular 1999 P Roosevelt dime is just another dime, 50 pieces to a roll, dropped into vending machines used to pay for parking meters or mixed into piggy banks. And for the overwhelming majority of these dimes, that's exactly all they're worth. A standard, error-free 1999 Roosevelt dime, even in brilliant uncirculated condition, usually only commands a few dollars from collectors who want a perfect example of a common date. Millions were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and they remain plentiful today. Their supply far exceeds demand, which keeps values modest. But that ordinary valuation changes dramatically when you discover an authentic mint error. Errors are fascinating because they represent moments when something went slightly wrong during production at the mint. A mistake that left a unique imprint on a coin that was never meant to look that way. The most sought-after error variety found on the 1999 P. Roosevelt dime is a dramatic double die obverse, where part of the design, especially the date and lettering, appears doubled due to a misalignment when the die itself was created. This isn't subtle doubling that you need a magnifier to detect. We're talking vivid, noticeable doubling that a casual observer can spot without difficulty. When you compare values, the difference between a normal dime and an error dime can feel like night and day. A typical 1999 P dime might be worth 10 cents to $1 or $2 in uncirculated condition, which is hardly exciting. But a genuine error dime with a bold double die can sell for hundreds, or even thousands of dollars depending on condition. In circulated condition, these error dimes might bring several $100s because collectors eagerly seek them out for their rarity and visual impact. As condition improves, the values rise exponentially. Uncirculated error dimes that are well preserved with crisp doubling and strong eye appeal are the ones that generate real excitement at auctions. When you add professional grading into the mix, where services like PCGS or NGC authenticate and grade the coin, that certification gives buyers confidence, and that confidence leads to higher prices. In competitive auction settings, certified examples of the rare 1999 P double die Roosevelt dime in exceptional grades have sold for numbers that most people never expect to see for a 10-cent coin. In fact, rare premium graded examples have brought prices ranging from $49,690 to as high as $129,150 when demand, condition, and scarcity align perfectly. These prices reflect not only the rarity of error examples in high grade, but also the intense interest that serious collectors have in owning one of the finest known pieces. It's important to understand that error coins vary widely in how they look and how much they're worth. Double dies are among the most dramatic and valuable because the doubling often changes the appearance of key elements like the date and lettering. But there are other types of errors that can also attract collector interest, although typically at lower values. One such error is the off-center strike, which occurs when the blank planchet is not properly aligned in the coining press. The result is part of the design missing or shifted to one side. The value of an off-center dime depends on how much of the design is missing and whether the date is still visible. Slight off-center errors might sell for $50 to $100, while more dramatic off-center strikes with a clear date can be worth several $100s. Another error type that collectors look for is the clipped planchet, where part of the coin's surface appears to be sliced off because the planchet was imperfectly cut. Clipped planchet dimes vary in value depending on the size and location of the clip, and many examples sell anywhere from $20 to $150 or more for larger, more dramatic clipped pieces. These are interesting and collectible, but they generally don't approach the values of dramatic double dies. Die cracks and die deterioration marks are also encountered by collectors. These appear as raised lines or irregularities on the surface of the coin and indicate that the die used to strike the coin was beginning to wear or break. Most die crack examples bring more modest values, often $10 to $50, unless the cracking is especially pronounced or historically significant. They add character and a story to a collection, but they don't usually command the same premiums as major double die errors. Another type of unusual error occurs when a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, for example, a dime struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or type of coin. These misstrikes are rare and, when authenticated, can be quite valuable. Values can vary greatly depending on the specific error, but such anomalies can attract serious collector interest. What makes dramatic double die error dimes from 1999 so valuable is the combination of rarity, visual impact, and collector demand. A single dramatic error dime can be the centerpiece of a collection, and serious collectors know it. When one of these coins in exceptional condition appears in a major auction, bidding wars are not uncommon. That's how results in the range of $49,690 to $129,150 emerge. Competitive bidding among collectors who recognize the rarity and are willing to pay significant sums for one of the finest known examples. Condition is always a driving factor in these values. Two error dimes might both show the same type of mistake, but the one with the cleaner fields, sharper details, and fewer marks will always bring the stronger price. That's why professional grading and certification are so important. When a coin receives a high grade from a trusted grading service, buyers have confidence that they are looking at a truly exceptional piece, not just a damaged one. Comparing a normal 1999p Roosevelt dime to one of these rare error coins really highlights the vast difference in value. An ordinary dime, even in mint condition, may only fetch a couple of dollars at most. Meanwhile, a dramatic error dime, especially one certified in a top grade, enters a completely different level of value, tens of thousands of dollars or more. That contrast is part of what makes the hobby so fascinating. It reminds us that sometimes the most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary surprises. Next time you handle a dime from 1999, take a closer look. At first glance, it may seem unremarkable, but under magnification and careful observation, you might uncover something far more valuable than you ever expected. Error coins show us that even the smallest denominations can carry big stories and, in rare cases, carry prices like $49,690 or even up to $129,150 that leave collectors and casual observers alike amazed.